Okay, Chad, we're on.
All right, we're gonna open up the meeting for the regular board meeting for Pocahontas School System. I'm gonna call to order.
Our first item on the agenda is the minutes of the regular board meeting from June 17th, the special board meeting from June 25th, and then the work session of July 1st. Obviously, if there's any questions on those, be happy to entertain those questions. Otherwise, we would just need approval when someone is so moved.
I make a motion to approve all the minutes. Second.
We have a motion and a second. Everybody in favor say yes.
Yes.
Everybody opposed say no. Motion passes 4-0.
Okay, the presentation of reports this evening, I thought we'd, we always have to have a conversation about a student achievement issue, and this evening I wanted to share with you just some ideas and kind of thoughts about where we are on this Success Ready process. So as you may or may not be aware, the state has released the requirements for students to be what they're calling Success Ready. Basically, that's means that they have to have some kind of transcript and experience in what we're calling an H2 area. H2 is a high demand, high wage area as defined by the state. And so you have a document there. It's a Success Ready Pathway guide that the state has produced. In essence, the idea is that the graduation requirements for all students are that, so in order to get a high school diploma, they have to have a student success plan. They have to have the minimum number of academic courses, and then they have to have some purposeful, what the state's calling purposeful courses in a Success Ready pathway. Now the state has articulated, I believe it's 18 different pathways, and I've included those there, but I thought we'd just kind of highlight the pathways that we have on campus. By standard, we're required to have 3 pathways that we offer, 3 CTE pathways that we offer kiddos. The first is accounting. The second that we have there listed is the agriculture, what they're calling agriculture, power, structural, and technical systems. Now for us, there's a specific series of courses that go with each of these, and then animal systems. So those are the 3 that we would provide on campus. The idea is kids would take a succession of 3 different levels of courses, so a level 1 course, a level 2 course, a level 3 course, and then now that gets them to the diploma area. Once the state would like kids to get to this area of diploma with merit or a diploma with distinction, and what that requires is that's going to require some additional experiences for kids. It might require an internship. It might require, like the kids could get there's an AP pathway. So you take 3 to 4 AP classes, you get a 3 in each one of those, and then you could get the AP scholar distinction. Now that kiddo is what they're calling a diploma plus kiddo, right? They got the diploma plus some other experience. There could be internships. It could be some NCCER certifications that kiddos walk away from. The idea is that they have more than just a diploma, so the diploma plus something else. And it's all spelled out by the state. You've got there, you can see on that second page, that's in essence what we're talking about. Earn at least 3 credits in a success-ready pathway, demonstrate readiness via some kind of industry certification or an AP scholar, seal of iliteracy, 9 post-secondary credits. So they could go out to BRTC and take 3 classes worth of credits. Now, in addition to our on-campus offerings, we also have some offerings through BRTC with their Career Tech Center. That would be the automotive service technology, the nursing, and the welding. Again, same kind of mechanism. Kiddos would get the diploma and then some kind of experience that would count as the plus, if you will. And then BRTC does have a couple of online options that our kids have access to, criminal justice and pre-engineering. So we will spend some focus time this year as a staff really working with kids. Now, I mean, the idea, when you look back up there on page 1, the student success plans, that's been in place for a while now. The academic core courses, been in place for a while. Every school has always had to have 3 different pathways. Now, though, the state is defining it has to be pathways that fit in this, what they're calling H2, high demand, high wage. So for example, you don't see family and consumer sciences on there. Family and consumer science does not meet the qualifications the state has set aside for the H2 designation. And so this is going to be we're looking at maybe adding a couple of experiences for kids to get us more options for that plus side of the diploma plus. It's a process.
What are those? You said we're looking at adding a couple?
That's what I'm saying. It's a process.
yeah.
Okay. I mean, I still have to talk to Dr. Eggensborough out at BRTC to see if they have some things that might help us in some of these areas. We're going to have to go out and create more partnerships with local businesses. For instance, if a kid's in the, let's say the welding or the nursing services, how do we create experiences for kids that get them in the hospital or get them, on a job site as a welder and have some of those experiences, or create opportunities for kids to get more certifications in those areas.
I think one thing they did there, I know the kids got a couple of cheerleaders, they were CNAs in nursing. Or they probably graduated. She's had some kids that they have jobs in nursing, I guess part of that.
And that would be.
This room started with huge principle.
And that would be, basically dovetailed into what the state is trying to do. Basically, when the state created this, I would say they did so in a way to be as inclusive as possible. I think they came out and said there was only 3 districts across the state who didn't already meet these requirements. And so I think everybody's poised really well to be able to do this, and I think it will encourage us to continue building these relationships with our community partners. So
that starts as an entering 9th grade class. So will it be a requirement of them to meet, by the time they graduate, they have to meet one of these?
Well, it's not a requirement upon graduation. Now, let me say this.
Does it say that because some schools aren't doing it?
Say what?
It says beginning with the entering 9th grade class, all students have.
No, it's because whenever they bring in something new, you always start with the 9th grade, because you can't expect the seniors they have to be held harmless.
But our seniors next year they've already got this opportunity.
A lot of them do, yes. Okay. Yes, they already have these type of opportunities.
If they don't do these, it's not like they're not going to graduate. Right. They're not going to get a diploma with merit.
Correct.
Merit. So the diploma, will it look
But that-
different? Will it read different?
It's supposed to read different. It's supposed to have a little seal or something like that on it that says, with merit or with distinction. And one of the arguments that DESE has, that the state secretary has, is that there's a lot of kids who have a lot of time during school, right? That they're either off campus or, and how do we create more experiences for kids that they want to be in school? I'm all in on that. Our challenge is going to be how do we structure that for the students of Pocahontas?
Well, I'm doing my first trade school academy class in 2 weeks, and my plan is just to do it during the summer, but I mean, I was hoping eventually to be able to figure out a way to do it during school hours, a class or two. Maybe you've got construction on here,
Right. I mean, that's not let's see.
So they have to be highlighted to be a certain.
Well, that's the highlighting is what
Right.
we're currently doing in some form. The others are what the state provides for. There's nothing that says if there was interest on kids' part and interest on the board's part that we couldn't, expand those.
I feel like Black River could expand some of these too. The computer programming, the business, the finance, the bank. I mean, they offer at least some type of track for that.
So there's lots of opportunities to have these conversations. That's the short version.
So for the 25-26 school year would be when we would be looking to add additional opportunities, not this current school year, correct?
Well, I mean,
Given the time frame on getting something like that together.
if we're going to offer it for a course, yes.
Sure.
Yes. It's going to take at least 6 months. That's my expectation based on my experience. It's going to take at least 6 months because we would have to craft a handbook. I mean, we're going to have to craft the boundaries that the school has, the boundaries that the local business has. How do those dovetail? What are the requirements of each? So when I've done this before, it's been about a 6-month process.
Okay. Specific for the ones that involve local businesses, not the ones that we would offer. the
Those are
options we
already,
would offer on campus.
Those are
Yeah, I
already
mean,
out there too, yeah.
We have, so like for instance, I think we can do a better job of providing plus experiences even inside of what we're already offering, right? Accounting, the ag, and the animal systems. In my world, there's no reason why for an animal systems piece, we shouldn't have kids interning at, veterinary places or, when you start talking about accounting with, again, local businesses.
Sure.
You might know somebody who, you see what I'm saying? I mean,
No, yeah.
and those are the conversations we'd have to have.
Okay.
While we're on Agra, I'd like to just mention that, it seems like we are kind of lacking with our youth in FFA. Like, we teach them how to show a goat or a sheep, but we don't give them a practical world career they could do out of it, I think we should show them, hey, how you can make money doing this. We got so many farmers around here, chicken farmers too, we could have, just give them the basics on running a chicken farm. We got Mennonites out here, they're 18, 19 years old getting loans for chicken houses, and our youth are not educated enough to do that, And my neighbor's got a 6-house chicken farm at 19 years old, my Mennonite neighbor.
Mm-hmm.
And then cows, my daughter's got cows and she's made $1,000 on them cows so far. We need to somehow, show people how they can raise a calf up, sell it, turn around and buy another one, do it again, and practical money-making things rather than, hey, let's go show a goat just to show
I
responsibility.
think what they're doing, though, they have to keep a ledger of how much feed, how much it costs.
Yeah, for sure, but no one's going to make money on sheep or goats, and now they might, but,
I had to bottle feed a calf when I was in school.
yeah, there's no calves over there. There's no pigs, I don't think there's pigs over there, you know, and those are probably the money-making.
Yeah, I think
Livestock.
that's sheep.
And we've got so many poultry farmers around here that we need to start raising our kids to eventually maybe be a poultry farmer, you know?
Yeah, we're missing the mark for our area, for sure.
And that's all I had.
Well, I think it's a valid point.
I
And,
mean, we
yeah,
don't have goat and sheep farms.
right.
It does show responsibility of how to, it's like your chores, you know, that kids do. It makes them responsible, but.
Does that welding, do you know if the welding with Black River, do they partner with Agra, or do you know if they, because used to you weld down there and you do all that, do they have anything to do with Black River with that, do you know?
So we actually do, so when you look on the ag power structural and technical systems, we actually have a 2 point on that.
Okay.
As AH2, that would be for ag structures, which is more on the construction side of things, and we have ag metals. We have
Okay.
both. There's your welding.
The welding,
We
okay.
then also have the opportunity to go through the CTC program at Black River, which is your.
The certification stuff, okay.
I think our bigger challenge, I'm just going to share this, our bigger challenge is these kids aren't starting this until they're in 10th grade.
Oh, it's huge, like, it needs to be a lot quicker.
Well, I mean, you can't get to the level 4 if you're taking one level per year and you're not starting until 10th grade. Right? So just like the business accounting piece, well, you have to do the survey of business, the accounting 1, the accounting 2, and then the internship or that, you know, that experience. Well, the kids who have access to accounting 2 are seniors. And you can't double up and take accounting 2 and the plus experience at the same time. So we've got to find ways to push these things down into 9th grade.
Really even quicker, I think your 7th and 8th graders need to understand what they're.
Well, there is a 7th and 8th, yes, and there is a 7th and 8th grade pathway, right, that starts there with a.
I mean, like educating them, like, hey, when you get into 9th grade, this is what you can do, and yeah.
Well, there's actually a class, I think it's Business Innovations. It's a 7th, 8th grade class that would be a teaser, if you will, for Survey of Business, which is the 9th grade class. The challenge we have right now is we're not catching those Survey of Business kids until 10th grade, right? And so that pushes everything back. We've got to talk about acceleration, and I'm not talking just CTE. We need to be pushing, Algebra 1 in the 8th grade. I don't think that's an offering that we really do very much of. So what does that look like? So, I think it's a mentality that we're going to have to rebuild, right? If it was here, I think we're going to have to rebuild that mentality and start thinking about what does that look like in 6th grade, 7th grade, so that kids are ready to take Algebra 1 in 8th grade. And
now they're testing for Algebra 1, you have to pass a test to get into an 8th grade, and it's not very many kids that get in.
Because I know I took Algebra 1 in 8th grade.
You have to pass the test
and
and
trig
then.
and cal and all of that.
What about like something, well, this is not a work session, but like, when you go into your freshman year at college, they offer you a class that tells you all about the things to expect and the things that are coming, and you could do this pathway or you could do this pathway. Is there a way we could offer something like that to our 7th and 8th graders, even if it was just like a little part of some kind of elective they take, where it's like, this is what you can do with your life? Don't the counselors do some kind of like screening or something?
well, that's the success, the success plans, right? I mean, that's part of that whole process, is that you're having those conversations and the success plan is more than just having conversations, right? It's about what experiences are we providing to our 4th graders, 5th graders, 6th graders to get them ready for that. And I've come across a couple of ideas and a couple of examples of, what does it look like district-wide to create an experience for, 1st through 8th graders to get them ready for that, right? The things that that little kids get excited about, you know, the fire truck and I mean, that can be used as a opportunity to educate them on what that means. Now, that's a level that might be different than if you did that again in 6th grade with that same type of experience, right? So there are, again, all of this is going to be a journey to make sure that we have the pieces in place and we don't just jump in and say, okay, now we're going to do this, right? I think that's where we get ourselves in trouble. Not trouble is a liberal word at this point. I mean, it's, you know, gets us in, we need to be strategic.
Who's smoking?
Caitlin must have turned it off. She's in her office in the office in there. Okay, I'm going to move on to the nutrition, the 4.1, our first informational item. I just wanted to make you aware that our child nutrition program was monitored by the state for the summer options that we provided. You'll see that the district was found to be in compliance of all the federal regulations, and so that review was closed. Basically, that's just something that happens annually. I just think it's nice that we articulate, yep, this is where we're at, and this is how we're doing. The 4.2, the other piece is I wanted.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
4.1, the notes about the delinquent debt.
Oh yeah, let's talk about that. See, I'm trying to go back and forth here. So there was some guidance that came out from DESE in the last 2 weeks around delinquent debt and bad debt when it comes to student lunch accounts. Delinquent debt is basically debt that is collectible. What that means is if a kiddo ends the school year with a balance of negative $25 and they're still here, they're a 2nd grader and they have a negative lunch balance, they're coming back to us as a 3rd grader, that's considered bad debt, right? Or delinquent debt, I'm sorry. Delinquent in that it's debt that is owed, but there is still an opportunity to collect on that debt. Now, we get to decide as a district when delinquent debt becomes bad debt, and bad debt is defined as something that is uncollectible. So the idea would be if a student graduates high school, he or she is the last student in their family to be in school, there's no more school-age kids, that debt is uncollectible. That's what we would say, right? Because there's no way, they're not in school anymore, and so there's really not a way to collect that money from them. There's some requirements on how you deal with that money, how you deal with that debt, because by law, we are required to deal with the uncollectible debt, and we cannot use federal money to
Make up for that.
to make that right. So in essence, we can't use the money that is generated by food service to pay off the debt that is in food service. Okay? Now, there is a little bit of a caveat, and that's why I've got in there on under the bad debt that I did find out in having some conversations that we can use money that the state provides for us that covers the reduced price copay. So the state sends us dollars to cover the that 40-cent copay, or the difference between the 40 cents that a kiddo pays and the price of the meal. We can use that money to assist in writing off the bad debt. Typically, I think in the past, the district has typically used operating money, which is also allowable. But we're looking at, Victoria and I are looking at different ways to make sure that we are being strategic with our dollars. Another piece that, like, the question I have is, how do we have, delinquent debt becomes bad debt. So the less delinquent debt you have, the less bad debt you're going to have in the back end. So we have put in into place some strategies that we think are going to be effective going into this year. One of those is we're going to communicate weekly with our families via text through the website, through Apogee, on what the debt is, right? So as far as
Show those little slips that never make it home.
right, so it's gonna come to the phone. It's gonna say, you have money that you owe, kind of thing. I mean, it's wordsmithed better than this, and here's how you can cover that. Right, you can bring a check to the office, you can pay at your school. I would tell you that I am optimistic that that's going to help quite a bit. We piloted that the last 2 weeks of the spring semester, and we received several phone calls from people who, hey, I paid my debt. I want to just make sure that my name's coming off that list. They're following up, which means it seems to be making an impact. That's what I'm going to say. So I think if we can start that this year, this fall, by reaching out on those on a weekly basis, maybe we can reduce the amount of delinquent debt that we're carrying over, thus reducing the amount of bad debt.
How much is a year is a delinquent debt? Ballpark.
I'll say it this way. I don't know that I know the answer to that question. I can tell you that the last time that Victoria and I looked at how much we were talking about in general, we were talking in the terms of about $2,000.
Per year?
Huh?
Per year?
Yeah, that just rolls over. And so there's some other things that she's looking at. She's looking at, maybe trying to parlay the seasons of giving with maybe thinking about kids who have these delinquent debts. If someone's looking for, if you will, a charity or some kind of opportunity to give some funds, then there will be some opportunities to do that around like Thanksgiving and that kind of thing.
So wouldn't that be a good time to identify those kids that have not turned in their paperwork to get free reduced lunches?
We'll actually start doing that early on, like in August. What you run into a lot of times, this delinquent debt comes from kiddos who, let's say they fill out the free reduced lunch form. It covers them, I believe, up through like September 1st of the following year. And then if parents, let's say they get it in a week late or 2 weeks late, kids are still eating, they're collecting that debt, that debt owed. On the backside, there's a number, I'm just going to call it, a number of folks who might look at it and say, well, why should I pay that? Because I get free meals, or and that's true, but there's some debt that's incurred due to paperwork, maybe not coming in on time or something like that. So that's kind of where that comes from.
Can I make a suggestion as a parent?
Mm-hmm.
I think there needs to be better education on the Easy School Pay app. Like, I think a lot of people, that stuff gets just put in the middle of all that paperwork. People just push it to the side. Like, it's the most genius thing I've ever seen, because it's a running credit that the
Right.
kids have, and I don't have to deal with any of that. But I know some parents are like, I didn't even know I could use it.
I've never even used it.
Are you serious?
It's a great
It
app.
withdraws $40 every time they get to a $10 balance. It puts $44 on there, like,
Does it charge a fee? Okay.
and they just, it
Doesn't
charges
charge
to
our
their
parents
account.
a fee.
Oh, what a big
Yeah, but I think that just needs to be like, okay, school
But surely
started all
that's a
week
sheet of paper
later.
that came home with us as parents.
Right, it's in the-
One of the 85 sheets of paper that we got.
Right, so I think like even waiting a week and saying, hey, remember this, we have this, sign up for it.
Well, and I think
It's called Easy
easy school pay, I think. It's actually, so one of the changes that you've probably seen in the board policies is we're articulating in the policy what the app is
Yes.
and what that, how to best do, get to that.
Out of mind for me, I don't have to think about it.
You may have seen on Facebook, I sent out a survey for the comprehensive needs assessment. And one of the things that we asked folks was just, we asked them a series of questions, but then the last 3 questions were kind of just tell us what you want to tell us, right? What concerns are, and one of the things that we got back across all levels has to do with communication, right? So that is certainly, in fact, that's on our agenda for our admin meeting to talk about several things. One of them is bullying interventions and strategies, training kids and adults. Another is communication. What does that look like from the building principal's point of view, teachers? How are we still using rooms to do that kind of thing? And that goes back to, I kind of have some other thoughts around how we can provide some more regular communication just in general, right, from the superintendent's office. And so I think we're going to start putting some of these littler things in place that hopefully parents feel like, okay, there is more communication coming at them from different spots, right? Because somebody might get it from the 85 pieces of paper, but somebody else might get it from something else, right? So.
But it gets sent on the 85 pieces of paper and everybody assumes that the parents saw it. Well, they don't. But if they got a couple weeks later, hey,
right,
this is here.
Well,
this is available.
I'm sure that I've touched it 6 times, I'm having a kid, I'm certain that it came home with me.
Well,
If it wasn't something I had to return, or was it in bright pink, and it probably had been copied 55 times, so you could barely read it,
Well, the point is, it's gotta come, anytime advertising works because it happens more than once, right? It's the same process, so, that's kind of what we're looking at, yeah.
I know all the parents have email addresses because they fill it out, right? Or most of them do.
But, and I think being just better about the communicating, that sometimes we get email blasts from certain schools, but it would be like 6 pages of, look at this, look at this. And I'm like, I'm not looking at that.
Right.
I'm not reading 6 pages of what's new.
Short and sweet.
Just send me
Right.
something about this one app.
The text message sounds like a
Yeah.
great solution to
Yeah.
that communication.
Okay, are we good there? Thank you for bringing that back up. All right, 4.2, I just wanted to bring your attention to, on July 5th, I received a letter from DESE. Last spring, we put in an application to provide high-impact tutoring at the elementary school and MD Williams during the school day. So there's a couple of different tutoring grants that Arkansas Learns had in it. One of them is this high-impact tutoring, and the requirement for high-impact tutoring is it has to be at least 3 times a week, and it has to be during the school day. And so I did some investigation. We kind of looked around at, and it has to be provided by a licensed teacher. Okay, that's the other piece. And I felt like asking our teachers to do plan for one more thing was not necessarily the best thing for us. So I went out looking for a partner, if you will. Several school districts in the state, I'd say about 15 or so. Couple of what I'm going to call high profile in the district, or the districts in the state, have partnered with Book Nook. Book Nook is an organization that provides this high impact tutoring experience. So they're going to do so on a 1 to 3 basis. Could be 1 to 4, but we like 1 to 3. It will be virtual, but it's real time, right? So it's a person sitting on the other side of the computer, if you will, in real time, responding to kids. Now, the kids are sitting in a, for example, a classroom or a space, there has to be a supervisor for that. But those teachers on the other end are taking those kids through this program that Booknook has. The expectation is that if we're doing it 3 times a week for at least 30 minutes a pop, for 10 weeks, we should see a grade level at least of gains. I mean, in their data that they provided to me, they're seeing a little bit over that, a little bit over a grade level gain in 10 weeks. So if it works the way they share it should, if it works the way I would expect it to, then what we're thinking is we're going to start right after Labor Day. We're going to utilize time or the win time at the 2 Julys for the kids who need it. Right now, we're expecting to target about 60% of the kids at the elementary school, right? Because those are the kids that are already in intervention.
Is it just subject matter of reading?
It's going to be literacy first semester, and then I've written the grant so that we could do either literacy or math second semester, right? So the idea is, if you come out, if you're a kiddo and you're doing literacy, you're doing literacy, and then we get to the end of the 10 weeks, maybe everybody's made some really great progress, but maybe Chad still has some more progress he needs to make. You could move on to math, he might stay in literacy for another 10 weeks.
What kind of interaction do the virtual tutors have with the actual teachers that are instructing these kiddos? Like what kind of reporting?
No, I mean, okay, so
Any interaction with?
let me back up. It's like a Zoom meeting for the kids, right? So there's 3 kids, they're working through it. Yes, the teacher on the other end is engaging with kids, right, around a science of reading kind of model.
Right.
Okay.
No, so my question was, the teachers that are on the virtual, that are tutoring these kids, do they have any interaction with the actual students in classroom teacher? Is there any communication there?
I gotcha. So there is, my understanding, the way I understand it right now, there is not necessarily face-to-face,
Well, yeah.
right? But Booknook is collecting all this data,
Okay.
right? We're going to put my vision is we're going to take that data, we're going to upload that into ION, and now the teacher and the grade level teams have access to that data.
Okay, so they will be able to monitor their progress.
Right, through the data
Okay,
collection
gotcha.
process. Yeah. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I
Okay.
just wanted to, what's the connection between the teachers that's actually instructing them on the science of reading model for that day, the lesson for that day?
Right.
How that works.
So the way it's been explained, kids will get on, they'll do some diagnostic work, the tutor they'll collect all that information, the tutor will take them through the 10 weeks of lessons. Each time they're doing that, they're collecting data, they're going to give us that data, we're then going to upload that into ION. On the backside, the state is also collecting that data, right? Because they want to know, how are we doing statewide in that? So right now I'm calling it conditionally awarded. In essence, we've made it through phase 1. DESE has forwarded our application to DESE leadership for final approval. And so, they're going to fund until they run out of money, is my understanding. What we asked for was about $393,000 for headphones, for teacher subs in the event that we need them for some reason, maybe training or whatever, and the cost of the contract with Booknook.
And you said the students during these tutoring sessions have to be supervised by an adult. 1, where is it taking place? And 2, who's responsible for that supervision?
Well, I could see a couple of different models. Sean and I have talked about a couple of different models. I could see a model where, let me back up. What he has shared with me is one of the large concerns or I'm gonna say concerns of his classroom teachers is, from last year's work, is they want their own kids, right? What they were doing last year, which is a great way to do it, it's an effective way, it's a research proven way, is, you know, maybe Gary's really good at teaching the letters and sounds for the vowels, right? And maybe Jennifer's really good at teaching diphthongs or whatever. So if I have a kid, if I'm a teacher and I have a kid who needs vowels, they're going to go over there. If I have a kid who needs diphthongs, they're going to go over here, right? Right, and they would swap.
Okay.
And that was a concern of, the way it's been shared with me, that was a concern of some of the teachers of, no, I want my own kids. I know where they're at. I know what they need. You know, what you get into is, it's hard to intervene when you have 20, 25 kids and maybe only a handful need some help, right? So one model might be, let's say I've got 5 or 6 kids in my class that they're getting high impact tutoring from Booknight. Well, I could set them off to the side because they're having interactions with a teacher. All I need to do is keep an eye on them and make sure they're doing what they need to, while I'm now working with another set of kids at a kidney table in my classroom, while maybe the kiddos who are doing an extension, who don't need extra help, they're up there maybe working as a group of themselves or on their own, right? So now I've got 3 different stations, if you will, running, and it's not, I mean, I'm still able to manage all of these things going on, because really the teaching is going on here with these 3 kids, and I just need to make sure that, you know, we're still on track here and still on track here.
Okay.
So I think that, to me, that's one of the more effective models, which allows a teacher to keep their own kids if that's what they want to do, right? If the staff is open to, or if Sean is open to, with his staff, okay, we're gonna take a subset of kids, maybe it's the kiddos who need to work on diphthong, we're gonna go somewhere else, and we're gonna keep the kiddos who are in high impact tutoring. You know, because with the high impact tutoring, you're not only moving kids, you're moving kids and headphones and computers.
Right.
Right? So to me, it's like those kids probably need to just stay where they land, because there's so much equipment that goes with them, and then we'll figure out how the rest works. But that's what they're working on this summer, is what does that structure look like in the elementary structure and the 4-6 structure.
Okay.
Okay? I have not heard whether or not final approval has been given yet. I understand that DESE Tutoring will reach out and let us know when all that happens.
Okay.
Okay? Any other questions there? All right, we'll move on to action item 6.1, the monthly financials. You have in front of you the reports as we provide every month. You also have the summary board report for period 12, along with the broken out revenue summary and expense summary for each of those. Be glad to answer any questions there if there are any.
How many weeks we got left on this year?
Well, there'll be one more period, so period 13. Period 13 is really designed for
2 weeks,
if we have anything we need to reclassify, expenses, that kind of thing. It's really just a cleanup period. So
2 weeks, yeah.
in essence, what you see is, for the most part, I'm gonna say 98% of it is included in there.
Yeah, we'll need a motion.
Second.
We got a motion and a second to approve these financials. Everyone's in favor, say aye. Opposed, say no. Motion passes 4-0.
Oh, that's cool, it popped up.
How did that happen?
When When did that start?
What's that?
Your results, your voting results.
We're getting better
I
at
was
this.
like, what did I click?
Nothing, we're getting better. You can just exit out of it, you're good.
And I assume the transfer of the money with the new banking, everything went,
So far,
okay, just, you hadn't mentioned anything.
so far, yeah. And so they were, Gage and a couple others were here, I'm gonna say mid last week, working on to make sure that the payroll goes through. I mean, that's the biggest issue right now, is just make sure that the payroll information is what it needs to be. They worked all day, but, felt pretty confident, that they've got everything lined out. And so, I expect that it's gonna go smoothly and we won't see any issues. Okay, 6.2, I wanted to just share this a little bit. I told you at one of our previous meetings, we talked about the cell phone issues. The governor has made cell phones what I'm going to call it a priority in the last 2 or 3 weeks. And the state released some information about a mental health grant. Basically, the mental health grant is a combination of providing mental health resources like telehealth resources to kids and families, and the desire to work with school districts around limiting cell phone use across the district. And so what they have sort of put out, what DESE sort of put out right now is they're taking information about what funds a school district might need if a school district was interested in purchasing pouches or some kind of locking mechanism for cell phones. Now, I'm just going to tell you, when we started this, when they released this, initially was, around July 2nd, they released some more information early last week. And I was kind of just a no, right? Because the way it was put out there, it was like, okay, we want to start this in August. We're going to have kids come back. We're going to have them lock up their cell phones in these yonder bags, and I did a little bit of research. I reached out to some superintendents who have dealt with this very thing, because Arkansas is not the first district to think of this and to go through this process. So I contacted a couple individuals that I know who are in other districts in other states who have some experience around this, and it's what you would expect it to be. If a kid wants his cell phone, there's a possibility they're going to cut the bag, right? Because it's like these little yonder bags. The way I think about them, if you've gone to some kind of comedy show or a music concert, then they'll get, basically when you walk in, you got to put your phone in a bag and they lock it up. You
keep it with you.
Yeah, you may or may not get to keep it with you, and then it does not open until you run the bag through a little magnetic lock, anti-lock, then it pops the bag open and now you get your cell phone out. Right? I mean, that's the mechanism. On Thursday, Secretary Oliva got on with the superintendents and basically unpacked this a little bit. They are not, the way I now understand it, they're not asking necessarily for a date on when we're starting. They're interested in how much money do they need to think about committing as a state. And so the example was given that we could look at it for 6 months or 8 months and maybe in spring break decide we want to pilot something at the end of the year, that kind of thing. Or we may look at it and as a community say, nope, that's not what we're interested in. The grant isn't necessarily a commitment because it's a reimbursable grant. So we would not get any money unless we spent money on this piece. And I would tell you that in my feedback that I received from our needs assessment, there are a number of responses that basically said something to this effect. Limit cell phones, cell phones should be banned in schools, or something like that. So preliminarily, they wanted an answer by the end of business on Thursday of yes, plan on us, or no, don't plan on us. I like to keep doors open, so I said, sure, plan on us. I changed my mind based on what I heard Secretary Oliva say, but that doesn't commit us to anything. And if if this board after after tonight said that's not something we're interested in, we don't even want you to look into it, fine, we're not committed to anything. If we said, yep, let's at least go down the path and see what the community wants to do, then that door is still open to us. If I had said no, then we could still go down that path, we just wouldn't get any money to support it.
Actually, in my time, we've done that before. The teachers take up the cell phones first class, they get them when it's over, but it just.
That'd be something that would be free, we could try it.
But here's the problem I got with it. If there's anything happens at cell phone, the school district liable.
That's my issue with it, Gary.
I have a real problem with that.
I do too, because I've been in that situation.
Where are the bags kept during school time? Like,
The kid has to keep
Can't
up
hold on
with
to
them.
it.
Or
oh,
they
the
carry
kid
it
has
on
to
them.
keep up with it?
Like a
So,
necklace
well,
you
there's,
wear.
again,
like
there's lots of,
water
there's,
protectant bag you would go down the river with, but it's locked.
Oh, okay.
there's lots of different options,
But they
I've,
typically keep it on their person?
throughout the school day, certainly, right? One option would be, there's let's say first hour is their homeroom, using that term. Before they leave for the day, they've got to send them all, they've got to take them all back to homeroom, or, you collect them and then, maybe kids have to go back to their 7th period and get them before they go to class, or.
How would you man that though? I mean, you're gonna have kids that are gonna say, I don't have my phone today.
That's
Or
true.
they're gonna put their other phone in there.
Backpack.
They're gonna put one of my countless
Old
extra
that don't
phones,
work. Okay,
and
here
then
you
put it
go.
in there.
Like,
And-
kids are smart.
Oh, yeah, it is not, let me just say, it is not a panacea. It is not gonna fix all the issues.
As somebody in mental health as my career, I feel like they're missing the mark. It's not about the cell phone.
Cell phones have a little bit to do with it.
A little
If
bit.
you read the sign.
But if they would put their money into other things, they would see this stuff changing.
I would tell you that the rounds that are being, and I think I mentioned that before, but that the book Anxious Generation is the one that's making the rounds. In fact, I was at a meeting in Hot Springs last Monday, and at that point, Secretary Oliva announced that Governor Huckabee Sanders bought the book Anxious Generation and gave it to every legislator. So take that for what it's worth.
If they would put their money in providing schools the funding to offer mental health services at school.
Well, there is a telehealth process, right? I mean, that's a piece of it.
Right, but telehealth, I mean, like, you've got bigger schools with social workers and everything.
True.
But they don't provide enough funding for that. But if they would do that for every school, you would have some of this stuff going down. Especially your bullying,
We'll
your
also
self-harming.
provide funding.
They're just putting
I mean, it
funding.
also says, right, so.
But this
what does
says
that
telehealth
entail?
mental health services, so it's basically like, oh yeah, we'll pay for them to well, they already really do that.
Well, actually, what the piece that I hadn't heard before is they're looking at a mental health, what they're calling concierge service. Does that make any sense to you? I mean, the way they explained it is for rural areas,
They're gonna let
they
you
would,
tap into like
they would
BetterHelp,
connect.
where there's a therapist on the other side of
Okay.
the computer, and they're gonna say, oh, kid can talk to this therapist that we don't know. You see what I mean?
Yeah, no, I get it.
I know it's not your argument, but it's from the mental health side of it, it's frustrating because they don't take care of the therapist. They make cuts and pull and do all that, but then they expect this to get better.
Right.
Craig might know, but my kids, I can text them throughout the day and they will not respond to me until 3 o'clock or so, 3:20.
Got good kids.
I mean, they make it seem like they cannot touch their phones at all. Is that the majority of teachers? I mean,
What's
Yeah.
that's the work in the system.
and then I hear a substitute tell me in my cafe the other day, he said, you got to get your phones away from the students in there. They won't listen to me when I'm in there teaching. I'm like, well, which is it? Because I can't get hold of my kids. They act like they can't touch their phones, but then at the same time, other people tell me there's an issue, but I mean, are kids allowed to look at their phones throughout the day or?
I mean, again, I would say we're as loose at the high school as probably anybody. The mere fact of, again, it's kind of,
You're getting older, yeah.
yeah, and, act like they'll treat it like they'll. But no, the expectation is, kids are acting like their phones when I'm talking. I've got a major issue with that. And I would say 99% of our teachers in this district are like that. Now, I think where your TikToks and your all this silliness goes on is in the aisle time.
Yeah.
But no, I don't think kids are blatantly just filming each other and they're playing on TikTok now. And kids are savvy. I was saying I was in here texting like this while you can't see it. But no, I mean, I would say 99% of our teachers, if the kid just playing on his phone during instruction time, they're going to say something.
Gotcha.
I wonder if there's a way to blanket, like, how our system cuts out certain websites, if there's a way to have like a barrier where certain apps don't work. Can you do that?
China did.
Well-
I mean,
Facebook was not allowed in China.
I would think, so I am not aware of anything that would allow us to do that when kids are using their data streams,
Which 95%.
right? If they're using the school district Wi-Fi, certainly.
right.
But if they're using their own, Verizon network,
Can't do that.
I don't know. I'm not aware of being able to do that or a structure that would allow that. And personally, I wonder if that would be even less attractive because in a crisis, that would be an issue.
Well, I think, if you've done away with the overgrade, especially in elementary, our staff is going to be, they're going to have thousands of calls from these parents. Maybe they're texting their kid now, so it's going to cause more work.
Well, they did it before, but they did it back in the 90s and 2000s, but
I would like to hear what the teachers say, the administrators say. Is it a problem? What kind of problem is it?
Yeah.
And then go back to the parents. Okay, parents, here's what we're seeing in our district. What do you want us to do?
Well, and I think to me, that's all part of this process. So,
If it is a problem, it may not be a problem.
I guess I put this on as an action item, but this is, I guess it could be, right? The motion that I would ask for, just to put it on the record, if you will, is there support from the board to undertake a fact-finding process?
Yeah.
Right? That's really where I think we're at.
Nothing wrong with that. Do you need a motion?
I think we should, yeah.
I'll make a motion. Correct.
Motion.
I think Bailey part was on the back. That's it.
What is the motion for?
The motion would be to approve a fact-finding
So just go
process.
looking further at what we can do.
Right.
I'll say
Getting some feedback
Process
from the staff.
all right, we have a motion and a second to approve a fact-finding mission process for cell phones. Everybody in favor, say yes.
Yes.
Opposed, say no. Passes 4-0.
Um, 6.3 is a renewal of our IT nodes, my understanding is those have to be renewed every 3 to 5 years. I think I put it in there. Let me go get back down to where we're at. Yeah, here we go.
That's just software stuff.
Um,
I don't
yeah.
know what scale computing is. What is that?
Well,
is it software? Is that what is scale computing?
It is, it's hardware and software is my understanding. I'm looking at the wrong thing here.
I think it's MF part of that.
There it is.
Manufacturer. I mean, obviously these are hardware because it tells the specs of the system, but.
Yeah, so DCW is a warehouse that we have used in the past. We used it for our Chromebooks. After getting the necessary quotes, Justin came back with DCW as the vendor of choice on these. He, the way I understand it, let me see, he sent me an email on this, and I'll just read because it was beyond me as well. Here we go. Where was it? Aha, here we go. Nope, wrong one. Basically, these nodes are allow for the data to move through our system. Is the way I understand it. It's required for what we need to do on to keep our system updated.
Is it the server level?
Okay. Yeah, I'm sorry. That's what it.
Okay.
The hardware side of that.
Gotcha.
They have to be installed, and then there's a software. I'm going to call it a subscription that goes with that to support those over the duration of that contract.
Okay.
And my understanding is that contract ran out, and we need new nodes and a new contract.
Does he budget for this?
He does, yes. Yeah, that's all in his
5-year contract.
in his budget.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve this bill from DCW. Everybody in favor say yes.
Yes.
Opposed say no. Passes 4-0.
Okay, I was a little behind. Who made the motion?
Me.
And then Ruth made the second. And, okay.
I thought it recognized our voices.
I know, right?
I'm not impressed no more.
I didn't even get the fancy thing.
Are you not getting it? It's just popping up.
Pops up with maybe.
Pops up on the agenda side.
I'm staying on the.
You're saying on the attachments?
It says, please don't tell Ruth.
Wouldn't be the first time.
6.4, by statute, we are required to print in the newspaper our preliminary budget for 25-26. That is connected to the election that will occur, the millage election, because we are not trying to increase our millage. Obviously, the vote, the election will be to keep the millage where it is.
Confuses everybody every.
It does, but that's part of it. And so what I included in your packet was I included the proposed budget of expenditures. We get this from Stevens. They provide that to us every year as a part of their services. You also have on there the sample ballot and the language that will be included. So once the board approves the budget along with the sample ballot, then we'll forward that to the county clerk. And I believe I included in there. So this is one that I think we need to be pretty specific in the language. And so Administration is seeking your approval of the attached proposed budget of expenditures with the tax levy for fiscal year beginning July 1st, 2025 to and including June 30th, 2026, and to approve all related election documents in order to comply with the above reference requirements. The total proposed tax levy represents the same rate that's presently being collected.
So,
So do you vote for it, or do you recommend people to vote for it or against it?
We don't recommend, we just recommend that they vote.
I don't think it matters, even if they vote against it, it still stays.
Okay.
Second.
Motion by Gary. Second.
We have a motion and a second for this proposed budget of expenditures. Everybody in favor say yes.
Yes.
Opposed say no. Motion passes 4-0. Is this thing picking me up or is that thing?
Both.
So do I need to speak louder for that one?
I don't, well, that's the microphone.
Okay, there you go.
So I'm going to say no. There we go. All right. 6.5 is the vehicle insurance renewal. Last month we looked at the property insurance. This month we're looking at the vehicle insurance. You can see there the line items for each one. And
What is the life expectancy of a bus? Are we still running a 1997 bus?
a lot of times they're, in fact,
Or they just-
we've had that conversation. A lot of times they're using them for parts.
But we still have to insure it?
I did, yeah.
Even if it's part?
Well, I mean, we didn't change any of the insurance issues. Where I'm going with that is, Tracy and I had the conversation about when do we make the decision in the district to sell a bus?
Yeah.
And how do we go about doing that? Because we did have an individual reach out asking about purchasing a bus. So my understanding is that previously the way that's worked is the bus is, just like any other item. We would bring that to the board would agree that yes, that's something we want to do, and then the mechanism for doing that in the past has been the farm sale.
Okay.
That way everybody's got an opportunity to bid on it, because that's what we need to, that's our role, right? Our role is to make sure that they don't,
But they cost us $635 a year to sit. I mean, that's just, and the 1996 car that I learned how to drive when I was 14 cost $722 a year. It's
And-
probably not even worth that.
well, and again, I was down there filling up with gas this morning, and I asked that very thing, right? Are we still running that Oldsmobile, for
I
instance?
think somebody still drives it.
Well,
don't they?
well,
How would that
I mean,
money
Coach
have-
Wellman taught me how to drive.
Tracy drove it, he told me he drove it the other day, to his house for lunch so that somebody would run, it hadn't been run in a while.
Okay.
And so, yeah, it's few and far between, and that was my question, is it time to get rid of the Oldsmobile, right? Is it time to sort of shed some of those?
I
So
think there's at least time to get rid of the collision.
that's something
I'm sorry, we're not gonna fix it if it.
no, we're not.
Somebody runs into
We're
it,
not, but I
gonna
don't,
fix it.
we're not. Those would be some conversations that I would really want to have with the risk management division at the state, because that may be some kind of requirement. I haven't had those conversations.
Yeah.
That may be some kind of requirement or a recommendation that, as a school district, you don't want to be uninsured if something
I
happens.
just want to make sure we're not hoarding stuff back there because we just
Like we
can't
do.
let it
If
go.
you go back and look, there's probably, Greg, there's probably one or two buses that they're using for parts, and there's no more out.
But do we have to insure that bus?
I think we have 24 altogether, and that's about 17 routes, and we've got 2 extras, that's 3 little buses, and then 3 tree buses, I believe is the conversation.
Second page.
So the bus for parts,
Page 1 of 4.
I just think if there's a bus for parts,
seeing
do we
all.
have to have it insured?
Scroll down.
So we could just make sure that our parting buses don't have to have insurance on them.
Well,
I just,
that's something I think.
It's a legitimate question.
I mean, it really, if it's
Yeah.
not moving, it doesn't run, it's just,
Well, and we can, that's something that, I mean,
clean it up pieces.
between Greg and I, we can start looking at places that we can be a little bit more strategic with what we have going on.
right.
So the annual premium is listed there on page 4, and it says it's, so 28, I think that's a 28, yeah, $28,420. So we would just need a motion to approve that amount for the vehicle insurance.
I make a motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and second to approve the vehicle insurance on all the vehicles for the school. Everybody in favor say yes.
Yes.
Opposed say no. Motion passes 4-0.
Okay, now we come to the meat of the agenda here, the student policies. If you'll remember, you want to take a break first, Gary? Let's take a break.
We're going to go into a break
It is 7:11.
at 7:11.
Let me, okay, I'm not sure how we do that on
Back up
this.
and running.
Let me see what this looks like. If I can pause it.